We are the knights that say, "Meh." Hello and welcome to the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we are looking at Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Holy smoke, oh yes we are. This is written and directed, well obviously most of them, all of them are in it. And a few of them wrote it and a few of them directed it. It was Terry Jones and Michael Palin that wrote and directed it, but I'm sure the others had a bit of a hand in what went on in the film. Now this is the second of their films. They obviously had a TV series that ran for a number of years. Their first film was And Now for Something Completely Different, which was basically an extended television show. It was all compilation, it was their sketches, different types of sketches. This one though is their first feature film that actually is a proper story, if you like, that features new and original material. So, was it worth them searching for the Holy Grail? Let's find out. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It was released in 1975. Yes, 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago. Yeah. My maths isn't very good, but yes, about 40 years ago, this film was made. Wow. Where does the time go? Now, of course, it wasn't directed by Michael Palin and Terry Jones. No, what idiot would say that? It was Terry Gilliam. Right? Yeah, it was Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones, of course. But as I said, I'm sure everybody chipped in. It's the Monty Python crew. Of course they're going to do that. But what is the film about? Well, it's pretty obvious, really, isn't it? It's Monty Python searching for the Holy Grail. Which means it's England. It's 932 AD. The land is ruled by King Arthur. And, just like any king, he wants to go off and do some daring deeds. He wants to make a mark in the world. He wants to prove his kingship, how brave he is. So he sets about looking for other brave souls, other knights that can help him on his quest for the ultimate prize, which is the Holy Grail. And that's pretty much what the plot is all about. It's about King Arthur looking for knights. So a lot of the film, a lot of the first kind of half of the film maybe, is about him seeking other knights to go and help him on the quest, with the last part of the film actually them all getting together, all the knights, and off they go actually finding the quest. And they think they track it down, or do they? I don't want to give any spoilers away. So he is joined by all these knights, and a lot of the plot actually is separate. So these knights have their own little subplots, and as I say, they all kind of then meet up. This film is a parody, obviously. It's Monty Python, and you can tell it's Monty Python right from the beginning, right from the opening credits. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a genius opening. It's certainly not one that you're going to be expecting. And I've watched this film quite a few times, and it always catches me out, this beginning. I put it on my DVD player, started watching it, and I was thinking, hey? Seriously, you will be doing that when you start watching this if you've never seen this film before. Genius beginning. You instantly kind of know, once you realise what's going on, you know that it's Monty Python, and that just sets your mind at ease. It's a very clever opening, very amusing, and it just sets the tone for the whole film. It's great. It also does a lot of the breaking the fourth wall, where they talk directly to the camera, or they point out that it's actually not set in, it's not really 932 AD. It's not really medieval, is it? That kind of thing. They break the fourth wall, which they constantly were doing. That that's kind of their style, wasn't it? So it pokes fun at that, at satire. No, it doesn't poke fun at satire. It satirises lots of different things. Mainly, one thing I did notice, and a lot of their comedy is like this, it satirises and pokes fun at people in authority, the sort of pomposity of people in authority. And so there's some really brilliant scenes in there that aren't necessarily part of the plot, like for example the dentist scene where it gets a bit political. So you've got King Arthur talking to a peasant, and you kind of think, oh, if it was fantasy, it would be, that peasant would be, very, very respectful of the. No, none of that. It kind of is, I'm going to say like real life, but it has got that more natural feeling to it, because the peasant doesn't necessarily do what you think he's going to do, and they have like a bit of a political conversation, and it just, it just shows up the whole point about authority and who's in charge and the kind of pomposity of those people in charge. Absolutely love that bit of it. I really adore this film because it's one of these films that just makes you it gives you a good feel. It makes you warm inside. It really does amuse you all the way through. There's so many laughs in this, and there are so many classic scenes. You've got the Black Knight scene. You've got, I don't want to give too much away actually, but you've got Bring Out Your Dead. You've got the Camelot song. There's so many brilliant scenes in this. In fact, as I was watching it, I was thinking, this is just packed full of classic scenes that I can't really remember any other film, any other comedy where a lot of the scenes are, if they were sketches in their own right, they would be considered classics. They would be like the gem in that actual sketch show. But they're packed. They're really crammed in there. And the beautiful thing about it is they don't feel like they are standalone. They actually do contribute to the storyline. So even though they're not necessarily necessary, if I can say it like that, to the plot, they're actually vital for the overall comedy feel. And that to me is genius, that you can write a scene that you think, well, I could cut that from the film and the plot still makes sense, but the film is actually enhanced with that scene in there. And the other types of comedians in there, as I say, they do satire, they do parody, but they also do silliness. And that's one of the beautiful things about Monty Python. They do silliness, but they don't do it in a cringe-worthy way. They do it in a clever way. They do it where, a little bit like Harry Hill, where it's, it's kind of serious silliness, if I can put it like that. And again, that's another bit of comedy genius. Plus, there's lots of slapstick. There's insulting. I know that's not quite a form, a genre of comedy, but there's that, that something just funny about when people insult people, and that's the guard scenes, the French guard scenes. There's lots of silliness in there, as I say. There's slapstick, so pretty much it covers all bases of comedy. And for me, I think that's maybe why Monty Python is so popular, because they do cover such a broad spectrum of comedy. The theme, is there any themes in this? Well, as I say, the main theme really that seemed to crop up in a number of scenes was anybody that's taking themselves too seriously and think that they're self-important and grand and important, and that doesn't have to be people in authority, they will get their comeuppance. They will just be shown up for the stupidity, of what they're trying to do and who they are. One of the scenes is the witch scene. Again, I don't want to really spoil it, because if I do, then you might not find it as funny, because when you explain jokes, they're not really that funny. But the witch scene, where it just points out the whole ludicrous nature of how back in medieval times they used to prove that somebody was a witch. Absolute genius way of doing it. So that's really the only theme. It's just more about comedy and entertainment. Honestly, I'm not the first person to say that Monty Python are very talented, but they are. I mean, if you think about it, they do multiple characters. They're not just doing one or two characters each. They're doing multiple characters, and they play different characters. So there might be a guard that doesn't do much in the background to obviously the main characters, but then you can have them acting against themselves. So there'll be one point where Michael Palin might be one character that's talking to another character, and they're just cutting between, but he's acting against himself. So the characters are genius, and they're all very solid. They're all very believable. None of them are cringeworthy, and comedy is very, very difficult to get right, because it can just go into cringeworthiness, and nobody wants that, do they? So they're multiple characters, and not only that, they wrote all of this, and I'm sure other Monty Python people had a hand in writing this. I'm sure it wasn't just Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones. And not only that, they did the songs. There's a few songs in there, which again I'd forgotten about the songs when I had started watching this. The songs are delightful, and that alone, I mean, and out of this became Spamalot, the very hilarious musical. So the songs are in there, and they directed it, and there's animations that kind of link all the bits, you know, and move the plot on, you know, done by the amazing Terry Gilliam. So you can, it's just a joy to watch, you know, talented people doing their thing and getting it right. There's no wastage in this film. It zips along, and this is 40 years old, and films 40 years ago sometimes were a bit laborious. They kind of just dragged on, the pacing wasn't there. None of that. It zips along. It's only, I think it's about 86 minutes long. But it feels, you know, it's like you don't really want it to be over. It goes that quickly, and there are so many laughs in there. I mean, I laughed all the way through, and if I wasn't laughing, I was just, you know, had that warm feeling, as I say, that it just puts you in that great mood. The film does definitely hold up today, so don't worry about if you think, oh, you know, films from 40 years ago. No, the comedy stands up, everything stands up. The production values are brilliant. They only had a budget of about £200,000, and I know that was 40 years ago. That wasn't a lot back then either. But they filmed, you know, like a lot of the castle locations. You think, wow, you know, they've gone to all these different castles. I think they only went to like 2 separate castles. They filmed one castle. They filmed about 8 different types of scenes, utilising each bit of castle brilliantly, so that you would never guess. So they were very clever, and I think, you know, and there's, I don't want to give this away, but the horse joke that runs all the way through that is to do with budgetary constraints. They had never planned that, and they thought, right, well, we'll just do this. And I think sometimes if you don't have a lot of money, obviously your imagination and your creativity comes to the fore, because you need to get around these problems, and thus comedy genius can be born. The set designs, as I say, the way they, you know, dressed all these castles and did the set, and they were very evocative. I always find with Terry Gilliam especially, his films are very atmospheric. They evoke just the right mood and put you just where you want to be. So it's full of fantasy references, it's full of fantasy jokes, and that's the great thing about it. It actually makes fun of fantasy as well, and I don't think there's many films that do it as well as the Monty Python crew have done it here. So overall, I would say yes, definitely. This is definitely one to watch. Own it, love it. It's brilliant. Everything's brilliant. The costumes as well, they're brilliant. They add to it. They're really visually stunning. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film to watch. You will laugh. There's no doubt about it. It puts you in a great mood, and you know what? That's exactly what you want comedies for. Did they ever find the Holy Grail? Well, you're going to have to watch it to find out. No, flying cattle. That's exactly what you want in a film. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Genius. Cult classic. Amazing. Definitely need to watch it. Thank you so much for watching this review. We have lots of other reviews on our channel. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and is there any other social media? Probably. Have we joined up to it? Probably not. Who knows? And one day we will get a website up and running. I promise. That is an imp promise. Anyway, remember, keep it surreal.